Captain to bridge.
Spock here.
Any signs of life?
Negative.
Have you tried all hailing frequencies?
Affirmative. No answer from the cube.
Have the department heads meet me on the bridge.
Already standing by.
Life sciences.
Following total atomic annihilation, the rebuilding of this great nation of ours may fall to you. That's why we at Vault-Tec have prepared these educational materials for you to better understand the 7 defining attributes that make you special.
Hey guys, what's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net's Future Imperfect, and I am one of your Vault dwellers today. From the Vault located in Guelph, Ontario, Canada, I am Mike the Bourbon, but I'm not alone as I'm joined by my ghoul compatriot from the city of Kitchener.
That'd be Alex. I guess I would be a ghoul, right?
Yeah. I don't see you exactly signing up to go underground because you don't trust people, whereas I'm entirely too trusting.
I'm not a religious zealot. I'd be more hunting for scraps, and I'd be like, hey, the water's good enough. Oh, it's radioactive. It's good enough.
And of course, from the lovely city of Lansing, Michigan, the hosts of Earth versus Soup. And I'm guessing maybe you guys are Brotherhood of Steel, or maybe you're from the Railroad, or maybe you're just overseers of your own vault. We're joined with...
I'm Aaron Pollyea.
And I'm Darlene.
All right, guys. So we are going to be talking about the Amazon Prime television series that honestly surprised a lot of people, and that is the Fallout television show. So we are doing this on Future Imperfect because this is the show where we talk about sci-fi property, sci-fi adjacent, and anything fun in that. So it's not just Star Trek, it's not just Stargate, it's not people with phasers. Instead, we're dealing with people with 10mm pistols who gather tin cans and occasionally will take apart a telephone to get the copper wire inside. So yeah, this was a show that I reviewed a couple of weeks ago. Big thanks to Amazon for providing me early access via their screener app, and they keep sending me stuff. That's really weird to have access to stuff so early from Amazon. So hey, I just realized I can watch The Boys early when that comes out. Cool. Anyway, this was a show that took me by surprise because I know, Alex, you and I had covered this on the show previously when some of the leaked set photos were starting to come out a couple of years ago. And you and I had said it looks good, but we were skeptical.
I was worried because track records for game adaptation TV shows, not the greatest. Also, like on a personal level, I'm not a big fan of the development studio that makes the games. Not the lore, not all that, just the actual games. I'm like, if they treat it like they treat their games, I don't want a show to come out and then 6 months later to go, oh no, wait, we've modded the show and now it works better. I would rather the show work right away.
I think when those set photos came out, my thoughts were, oh my God, they're actually paying attention to details. Like really minor details that most people would overlook. And I started getting my hopes up.
Yeah, I was kind of in the same boat because the set design, as you mentioned, it's the little things. Like whoever was doing the set dressing, they knew the games, they knew the material, and it was something I didn't expect from a television show.
There's details in this show that aren't necessarily in the games. Darlene, you and I both recognized things that were very specifically World War II surplus.
Oh,
cool. Made it feel very much like it was like the future of the 1950s. Like the mess kits. US mess kits, am I correct? Remember when we were in was it Philly? It was in Philly during the shootout.
It's in Philly with some of that store.
Yeah, and we saw World War II mess supplies and US mess supplies. And I think we both got grins on our faces. We were like, oh my God, that's really... They didn't have to do that. That probably cost more money than they really needed to spend. But that little detail, mattered.
But then they could have actually got replicas. Because we are now making replicas of that
Yes, it
stuff.
could have been replicas, but they didn't have to even do replica World War II. That means they had to specifically look for stuff to fit that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Credit where credit's due. Like the set dressers. Wow.
But
Like,
how many
like
times do we go to a what do we call those, PXs,
Yeah, and find old World War
or
II gear.
old find
Yeah.
old gear, or I got a sewing machine that's a foot pedal, and I paid $20 for a
Pawn stuff.
pawn shop. So a lot of this stuff could have came out of just pawn shops.
All right, we go off on tangents with this show.
oh yeah. But yeah, like the thing that really grabbed me, because I have been playing I guess we can kind of go around to talk about our exposure with the Fallout franchise. Now, years ago on Twig, many, many years ago, at least 8-9 years now, we did a Fallout TV show, and at that point I'd only really played Fallout 4, which is still the vast majority of my experience. I had tinkered with Fallout 3 and New Vegas, and much later Fallout 76, but 4 was my big entry point into the franchise. And within the first 10 minutes of the Fallout TV show, I was utterly enthralled, because I was looking for little things that just, they were Easter eggs to me. Like, there was a kid eating sugar bombs. There was Grognak the Barbarian. There was like just little things there that didn't have to be there, but they took the time. And that's just the fact, by the way, before we go any further, there are spoilers. So if you haven't watched the Fallout TV series, well, you've had about a month. Sorry. The fact that Cooper Howard, Walter Goggins, is the Vault Boy, and that's the iconic mascot of the franchise, with the finger guns and the thumbs up and all that stuff. That was really clever. And just to tie him in as Vault Boy is this fucking badass wasteland ghoul, that was smart writing. And Alex, I know you and I have had discussions about Bethesda's quest design and mainline story direction for some of these games. Some of it being interesting to what am I doing and why.
Yeah, my thing with every time I've attempted to play a Bethesda game, regardless of the franchise, I am somebody who prefers a strong main quest narrative with lots of flavor stuff to piece in tertiary information. Bethesda does, in my personal opinion, very poor mainline quests. And then they have really strong side quests and paths you can go that way. But it feels, for somebody like myself, a little aimless. And I was worried it was going to be aimless. And this was, for somebody like me who didn't really play the games at all, I had attempted to play 3 years ago, didn't like it. I attempted to play 3 again right after we watched the show. I got about 5 hours in, got to the overworld and went, this is brown and boring. I don't want to play this. And I know it's intentional. I know the idea, that it's the aesthetic for it, but to me, I prefer my video games to have some color, or have some life, or have little more than just vacantness, or have the style of games that they do is a lot of like point A and point B are on the map, but there's a whole lot of almost nothing in between. And I was worried that was the show going to be like this, and the show is not like that. The show is like they've chosen a narrative path, and they're going to move forward with it. And it seems like they're blending things from a couple of the different games and adding their own stuff to it without going and deviating too far from it, which is a little different from where like the last really good game adaptation show, which was The Last of Us, where they went like 90% with the main story that you're recreating from the game, and only changed things when it made narrative sense because you're not playing an interactive game. This seems to be more like they're grabbing the best elements of each, but keeping the world the same.
Yeah, like one of the things I noticed very specifically is Todd Howard, the guy at Bethesda had said this Fallout television show is canon, and I was like, okay, where is this in the timeline? And there are some elements in the show. I'm not 100%, so maybe Aaron, you can help clear this up for me, because this has crossover with Fallout New Vegas, but this takes place after Fallout 4 in the timeline, because they talk about the Commonwealth does get mentioned, the Enclave is mentioned, which is a big faction on the East Coast.
So I can talk about it a bit, yeah. So the TV show is taking place in 2296, which is actually the furthest forward that we have gone in the world. Okay, Fallout 4 is what I think it's
76 or 90 or something, or 80.
It's 2287, so it's 210 years after the bombs. And New Vegas is 81. 2281. So this is technically 15 years after New Vegas. Now, I know that I've read a lot of complaints online that there's a couple little details that seemingly don't line up with lore. I would completely disagree. As a person who has played the games, that has read a lot of the stuff online, like the background, making sure that I've gone through and read terminal entries. I've played all the games, even Fallout 1 and 2. I've played them all. Okay. That there's one thing that's in this show that people mainly latch onto, and that's like the destruction of Shady Sands. And on that blackboard, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of ourselves in talking about this or not.
Yeah.
But it's like the timeline of what it says is like 2277, the fall of Shady Sands. But we know Shady Sands is in existence in at least 2281 during the second battle of Hoover Dam from Fallout New Vegas. Boy, I sound like I'm insane talking about this, because I actually know the details. The point is that the bomb that blew up Shady Sands didn't take place in 2277. Shady Sands started falling apart in 2277 for some other reason, and then after the events of the second battle of Hoover Dam, it got hit. It's as simple as that.
And you got to take in consideration that the kid, Maximus, is probably 8 years old when he went into that
the refrigerator, the Indiana Jones reference,
and now he's 18. So
I think he's older than 18.
Well,
but
he's under 30. Yeah.
You're giving a 10 to 15 years
difference, which makes complete sense that Shady Sands was blown up after the events of the second battle of Hoover Dam. Like, I don't know. That's the biggest complaint that most people have, and it's not an issue. Like, at least to me, it's not an issue. I understand why people might think it is,
and it doesn't look like it was a nuclear bomb. It looked like it was.
It does not look like it was a nuclear detonation. Like, you can see that in the trailer where like Maximus and Lucy walk up to the crater rim and are looking down in it. A nuclear detonation would have to be, tremendously strong to produce a blast that deep if it was a surface blast. But there's buildings that are standing up right next to the crater rim. So that to me suggests that it was a low velocity explosion. It was big, don't get me wrong, but it was likely something different than like a nuke. And I even said that it might have been like an orbital strike.
Well, I was thinking it was fertilizer.
Ampho type bomb?
Ampho type bomb.
But that's a pretty big crater for an Ampho type.
We've seen how bad that can get.
Well, yeah. There's Mythbusters episodes where they do Ampho type explosion. We're getting way off topic. I'm sorry.
Holy shit! I had no idea what any of this was. That's crazy.
Could it have been like a controlled explosion, like sabotage, like they rigged up buildings and then blew them up from the basements, and that's how you get your crater?
Yeah, it very well could have been. They could have like undermined the entire area and blown it up. For all we know, that like the supplies that are attached to like vaults 31, 32, and 33 in this show were in like giant warehouses underneath Shady Sands. Because remember, they said water supplies were being tapped from Shady Sands. That's how they found out there was civilization on the surface. So
Mhm.
maybe they just emptied those areas that were directly under Shady Sands and then used these giant open areas underground and collapse them. Like,
Or fracking or something, and then just collapsed, and then they conveniently blame it on something else.
yeah, but it does seem like Vault Tech would have done that.
That's another thing. I like how they fleshed out some of the lore, like to make it seem like the world's it's got a little bit more depth. Like in the games, you do get a lot of information from terminals and books and letters, or if you do some of the 1,000 side quests that these games are like kind of known for, like you might miss entire bits of lore, stuff like that. Like even today, I found out in Fallout 4, if you play the lone survivor as a male, if you go to the Veterans Hall, that's the Veterans Hall you were supposed to go to the day the bombs dropped. Your speech is on a terminal there. I didn't know that for 10 years. So when they
There are.
expand, yeah,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Yeah, I
Go
was
ahead.
gonna say when they expand things out here and like with the implication that Vault Tech is behind this with like Robco and all these other entities that exist in the Fallout world, it really kind of turns things on its head. And I really appreciate that. Plus, also looking at how they've made the Brotherhood of Steel look like religious nut bars, I kind of like that. The fact that Maximus is talking like, with my penis, that's not good. It gets all hard and stuff. Like, and again, that's really funny, but you see what they've done to this kid through their indoctrination to him, and you see the innocence of the Vault Dweller with kind of Lucy and everybody else who's lived underground for these 200 years, how they're very naive about the world, how they interact with the wastelanders up top. And the games do an okay job of presenting that. I mean, despite them being these 100-hour long epics, like I said, whether the main quest is good or not, the side quests are usually where some of the fun is found in some of these games, and that's what kind of fleshes out the world. But with Fallout, the kind of television show, as Alex was saying earlier, there was a main through line here, and they did do a couple side quests here and there, and it was very cleverly done, where it never felt like the show was getting lost. Could they have added an episode, maybe trimmed a little bit of stuff here? Yeah, maybe here and there. But I think one of the funniest things, and I know this was an in joke, Walter Goggins, who's playing the ghoul, is escorting Lucy away after the dog, after they killed the giant mutant gulper thing. He's like, rule one of the wasteland, thou shalt always get sidetracked by bullshit. And that's a Bethesda game in a nutshell. You're like, oh, I'm going to go save my dad. I'm going to go avenge my killer. Oh, look, something shiny, and you're gone for 30 hours, and you forget where you are, which I think a very big problem of the Bethesda games is it's really easy to get sidetracked and forget where you are. And if you don't come back for a couple of weeks, I hope you know what you were doing. But
So,
sorry, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to say that I thought that was a really funny reference, and it was very true, but it also made sense for his character to say that. Like, he always, because the ghoul always seems to be getting sidetracked by random bullshit, and he's kind of sick and tired of it. Like, fine, Lucy is now like, I'm having to be distracted by Lucy, and I don't have time for this, damn it. I'm running out of drugs, right? Like, I don't know. I loved it. So many of the little details in the show.
And
are-
that's something to kind of talk about too, is the actors in this. Like,
Okay.
I like the first time I saw Walter Goggins, and
I don't want to go forward with that saying it's Walton. not
Walton.
Walter.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah, sorry. The first
People typing us emails saying, "Hey, you guys keep saying his name wrong."
Okay, so Mr. Goggins, first time I saw him was in The Crow Salvation with the guy from the first Resident Evil movie, which I will defend The Crow Salvation, by the way. I really enjoy that one. I talked about this at length, which you can check out on Loose Cannon with me and David Denoyer. But that impressed me, like, because I know he's very big on like Justified and stuff like that.
Justified, I think, where most people that know him recently have seen him from, because he was the through line main bad guy off and on for every season of that show.
Mm-hmm.
And then he does a lot of comedy too, which people don't realize. Like, was it Righteous
Yeah, he's
Gemstones, Vice Principals?
And then the girl, Ella Purnell, she was primarily a voice actress. And I've seen a couple of interviews she's done with some of the late night kind of talk show hosts, and she really has this air about her. I mean, I don't know, she suits the role and the vibe of Fallout, because Fallout, in my opinion, always rides this line between utter parody and despair, and it's really, really funny when it's well done. And again, yeah,
it's about her. She has she shows a lot of emotions.
Yes.
She's trying to keep the upbeat attitude. And sometimes you can see the actor does this where she cracks that upbeat attitude, and then she'll try to go back to it, and I got to give her credit for that. Oh, and by the way, I should say I have played a few of the games.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. I have watched Aaron play a lot of them. So there's
your background with it.
My background with it.
You know what, though? In some ways, though, having been an observer, you might have actually taken it as much, if not more, because you're not having to focus on not dying the whole time.
Well, me and Aaron do this thing of where we talk about situations after something. And that makes a lot of our shows that we watch a lot bigger to us. Like the whole using as experiments.
Oh, the vaults as experiments.
And that's come into a lot of questions why he was playing the games or why I was playing the games. It came up that we'd sit there and talk about.
And like, yeah, we just like philosophize or like try to rationalize what is there and fit it into the grander picture. So yeah, I mean, when we can bounce things off each other like this, you know, this was like 8 episodes, sure, and some of them were less than an hour. But I guarantee you we have talked between us probably for at least 40 hours just about the things that were in the show, how they linked together, what it meant, why it did really well with something, why it might have fallen a little short with something. But yeah, that's I think when it's Darlene and I watching something, we can really go deep into this kind of thing.
Yeah,
Ella Purnell is amazing in this show. She can act with her eyes really well, and that means she has charisma on screen. You want to watch her eyes in this. And like you said, you can see her snap every now and then bring it back.
Yeah, because she does this twitch.
Yeah.
Where she's cracked, but then she'll put that face back on.
Yeah, like that's something I didn't expect so much, to have someone so expressive through their facial expressions, but also just their body language. Like she literally seems like she is that character. I'm not calling her the greatest actress of all time, but it really felt in the vibe of Fallout, in the ridiculousness of this world. It's suited. And then the person, I can't remember, I know he's from What We Do in the Shadows, who became the voice of the guy who plays the Mr. Gutsies. That was really friggin' clever stuff like that.
Harvest your organs.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not a Mr. Gutsy.
It's a Mr. Handy. It's a
That's
Mr.
a Mr. Handy.
It's had his ethical subroutines like removed. Yeah.
And rewired.
I don't think the paraphrasing the quote, but she was like, "I thought I was going to be here to be like a sex slave," and he's like, "Ew, no, that's disgusting. I'm just here to harvest your organs."
Oh God, the joke.
But yeah, like it's stuff like that where I think the scripts for this show were so incredibly well written, and I can only imagine when Bethesda this is my personal opinion. When they care about something, like about one of their IPs, I think they really have someone steering it. And I know the showrunners were the guys who did, I think, Westworld, I want to say.
Yeah.
So if you care about a property and if the IP holder lets you run with it, there's a really good synergy that can happen. Just like with The Last of Us, that show, they let them change enough, but it made sense. Like, I will go to bat and say the Nick Offerman episode is one of the best episodes of television I've seen in the last 10 years. And in Fallout, I would say it is in the obviously the upper tier pantheon of video game adaptations, because like I said, me and Alex have been skeptical over the last couple of years, but we've gotten The Last of Us. But then we get shows like Twisted Metal, which looks
Oh Lord,
dumb.
Yeah.
I got 5 minutes in. My brother was here watching that, and we're all right. We're gonna give it a go. We got 5 minutes in, and he turned to me. He's like, "Can we just not watch that ever again?" And I went, "Yeah."
Yeah, we did the same thing. I think we didn't even get out of the mall. We were just oh no.
We got
Oh,
into
no.
the mall, and that was it. And I was like, I just can't. And I see people like, "Oh, it's great." It's like, have you played the games? And then not only that, have you seen acting before? I'm talking specifically to the actors in the show. Have you acted before ever?
Like, and
I've
it's
played those games. I've played those games.
Yeah.
I don't care if I've played those games if the writing isn't good. And this was well, that was painful. Fallout was good.
But Fallout
Yeah.
has a story, you know?
Yeah.
And I liked one of the things they did that I think was interesting is the backstories. And if you go with Cooper, character Cooper, and his acting friends, you almost get that same feel that you had in what was it, Good Night, Good Luck, and
Oh, Good Night and Good Luck.
Good Luck, yeah.
where you're having McCarthyism or
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be called McCarthyism, but like the Red Scare sort of thing.
What
Yeah,
was that show that we watched? Was it last year or the year before?
What, Silo?
No, the one where they were selling real estate on the moon.
Oh yeah. I know that one. Yep. That was good. That was entertaining, but it isn't this.
It felt to me like that. You could have told me that was in the Fallout universe before the bombs, and I would have believed it.
Except for like the hover cars and things like that.
Yeah, no, but like the idea of like a robot that walks the dogs for you, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh man, like did you guys, when you watched the show, you watched it all the way through, did you go back and watch the opening scene with Cooper Howard after that again?
Yeah.
Get all of the look, that opening scene. I have spoken at length many times, either on Earth versus Soup or like on episodes of this with you guys. Like, nuclear war things really hit me. Obviously, that opening scene really hit me, but it hit me hard because of the acting in it. Like, Walton Goggins, the look of shock on his face, the silence after the blast. You know, the flash was there, and then as he's running, you can see people in terror, and they're not really being shown up front with it, except where the one family's trying to get into their bomb shelter. That's the only time when they're like in the center of the frame. But like there's parents of kids like sprawled onto the grass screaming, and you only see them for a moment. Like, clearly they were looking towards the blast and are blinded, and they can no longer see, and they're gonna die. And there's all these little things that are in the background in that scene. The building slowly tumbling as like half of it was vaporized, or the change in the color of the sky, just because of the giant mushroom clouds now reaching into the upper atmosphere. Because remember, this took place in the morning on a Saturday morning, so this was early in California when it actually happened.
It reminded me of Terminator 2 when she
Sarah
has the
Connor
vision,
goes to the park, right?
When she passes out and she has the vision of herself at the park.
Yeah.
There was one thing that I had a thought about, And I think that's what makes this show work for me as a fanboy, but also not as a fanboy. Because one of the things about Fallout, as I've mentioned kind of previously, it's big and it's ridiculous. There's cockroaches the size of your cat. There's a giant mutated salamander known as a death claw. There's things that are called rad roaches. The show showed monsters. We saw a lot more ghouls than I thought we were going to, but you never saw super mutants.
There was a hand of one. You saw the
Yeah,
hand of one.
yeah, there was a hand of one. I think the Squire Thaddeus, I think that doctor gave him the forced evolutionary virus. I think he will
Yep.
become a super mutant. But
Yes.
they didn't throw all the game stuff in your face. Like we only saw the gulper, we saw some rad roaches, but you never saw like bloat flies, you never saw like a death claw, you saw a skull of one, you never saw Brahmin or rad stags, you never saw the stuff where it would be cool if you saw it from like a fan service moment.
Yeah,
But
did we see Brahmin?
We saw Brahmin in
you're right,
in,
in the one settlement,
Philly.
right?
Philly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in Philly.
But they didn't overwhelm you with it. They didn't throw so much fan service where it was thrown away. When you did see stuff like the T50 or the T60 power armor, it looked good. It moved better than I thought it was going to.
Because it's a practical suit of armor. It's
Yeah.
practical. They actually
It-
built it, guys. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think that they had too much of a show run when they were
because
walking.
the whole cocky walk as like the whole
Yes.
line of T60s are just like
That was just
did the yog I always call them yogis because if you just look at the name, Yog Y, they're
Yeah.
yogis. Okay, yogis.
Yeah.
Do you think that looked good? The radioactive hair? Or do you think it's
that
pretty-
was the only weak special effect I thought. Like I thought the Yao Guai didn't look great, but the Gulper looked awesome, and the Rad Roaches, you
Yeah.
didn't really get a good look at them. But everything else worked because I think the show knew enough to pull back. Like we have this fantastic world, but we're not going to throw it all in your face. I mean, like to bring this to Star Trek, for example, you think back about how. Here's a good example, a very recent example. DS9 made the Breens scary, made them cool, right? Discovery neutered them. If you brought out all the Fallout monsters, if Lucy and Maximus had fought a Deathclaw at the end of season 1, it would take away the mystique. It would make the world seem less cool because now we've shown you our ultimate bad guy. That basically the Deathclaw is Fallout's Borg. It's the most deadly thing in the wastelands. But Fallout the TV show gave us just enough. We saw Easter eggs, like you mentioned, with the super mutant hand. We know there's other stuff out there. We know the wasteland's incredibly dangerous. But people are the big threat. We saw Raiders. We saw the Brotherhood of Steel. They've talked about the Enclave, but we've never directly seen guys in Enclave armor. They knew enough not to spoil it. Even to go to The Last of Us, yeah, we saw a lot of the spore zombies, but think how many times we saw a clicker. I don't think we ever saw a bloater. I think they talked about it.
Bloater? They didn't show the bloater. They talked about it.
Yeah, so when you
one
pull
point on
back... Yeah, go ahead,
the
Darlene.
Brotherhood is
Mhm.
I don't think this is supposed to be the regular Brotherhood.
Yeah,
I think
would
this
agree.
is a cult Brotherhood.
Yeah, because they're
Mm.
using different title names than
Well-
the standard Brotherhood would use. And if you notice, they were talking about how their airship had a specific name, like I forget what the name of their airship was, but if you actually look at the airship, it actually is Pridwin, the airship from Fallout 4. And the thing is, they're not just reusing the model from Fallout 4. That is a brand new bespoke CG model for this show. And it's like the Pridwin has a different nameplate on it, even that's been tried to be like scrubbed off. Its name tried to be scrubbed off. So it seems like there's been another schism.
And my thought is that because you have Maximus, you got Thaddeus, you got some of these Romanist names. I was wondering, my theory is that what was the Romans? Shop,
the Caesar's
Caesar's
legions,
some of Caesar's legion took over the Brotherhood here,
or got absorbed into it,
or got absorbed into it, or something. Because it's like it's kind of acting like it.
I don't know.
It also didn't seem like there were enough people in the Brotherhood.
Yeah, it's definitely
it's
a singular base.
Yeah, because like they're presenting it as if that's the Brotherhood, like as if that's all there is. But to me, it looked like that doesn't look large enough of a compound or large enough in numbers. And then revealing that some of the people that are in the Brotherhood are actually kind of wimpy, or
Yeah,
And all male.
yeah,
almost all. There are some women.
it looked like they were maintain. It looked like they found equipment. Somebody decided to bastardize whatever doctrine they had, and then they were going to masquerade as the Brotherhood because they couldn't cut it themselves.
Mhm.
My theory
like
is
him.
that Axum from the East Coast that was in Boston came back west in Pridwin with all that Institute technology after Fallout 4. And when he landed, it caused a civil war, basically because whatever lessons that he learned on the East Coast was that maybe we do need to actually use some of this technology to better safeguard people in general. And whereas like the West Coast Brotherhood has been all about like take as much technology as you possibly can out of the hands of everyone and hide it away, except for us to use to like oppress everyone.
Yeah, but they're running more like Caesars.
Well, that's the point. Like
Yeah.
that when Goodwin came back, that it formed like it caused a schism, like a proper schism. And these are the survivors. That maybe they weren't the most competent people, but these are the people that basically were left.
I
Mhm.
still think that somebody took over that
That's
were
my theory.
cultists.
That's my theory.
Yeah.
Because it runs too much like an occult with the priest and
Yeah.
And the
then
clerics and paladins and all that stuff that
Yeah.
like they were talking about. Yeah.
Paladins is a title that they have used.
It could be also that, if they're more incompetent or they're not the most competent people, that these were, or the people that initially started the sect were the cowards. That literally all the best ones did fight, like you said, in some sort of civil war, and they're just all dead. So
Yeah.
they're a shell of what once was, the Brotherhood, and they're just, when they're conscripting new people and getting new people, they're just pretending like nothing has changed, but in reality, nobody at any level really knows or has any affiliation with the original group.
Yeah.
Well, if you
Like
take the fact that that knight that runs from the yogi
I always call them yogis.
runs
Titus.
from the
He's just a giant coward. And
Oh yeah.
yeah.
like that's not how you wouldn't have gotten into that armor acting like that. Like there's
No
no
way.
way.
Maximus was more of a
Paladin.
paladin
Immediate.
than the knight was.
Now, is he a good person through and through? No.
No, he's a horrible person.
Yeah, I mean Maximus is a pretty bad person, but he learns to be a good person by just being around Lucy.
Yes.
Where
Mhm.
Lucy is clearly the white hat. And
But she's too far.
Her only downfall is that she got a little too tired doing cousin stuff, apparently.
yeah. And Cooper Howard, I don't think is a black hat. It's just that he comes across that way because he's
True
thick and-
neutral.
yeah, he's actually the proper gray hat. It's just that he's against everybody because everyone's working against the survival of humanity, effectively. Like,
you talk to the next person that you meet that's 250 years old, and if they're not grumpy like him, then I don't know. So he's sort of just how I would expect somebody to be if they've just been clinging on for 250 years.
Yeah. We need to talk about the New California Republic because I know people have talked a lot about that online.
Now, this is something where I don't have a lot of knowledge, so I would love to hear you guys explain this to me with a little bit more insight because I've seen what the NC armor looks like. I know vaguely what they're about, so a brief history lesson.
They formed out of a lot of different little factions that came together. Basically 50-ish years after the bombs fell, starting then. But like some vault dwellers that came out and started some cities. But like basically the NCR is at least as of New Vegas, was the largest nation in the former United States that we know of. It had a population of about 700,000 people. Okay, which is huge, and it covered it covered most of the large settlements in Southern California and reaching into Nevada. Okay. Now, it didn't control all of that area, just like the settlements and along roads and whatnot, but they basically had a functioning democratically elected government.
And they had rangers.
They had their own army, and they basically had their own police force, which were the rangers. They had print money. They weren't using like gold or bottle caps. They actually used the New California Republic dollar. And they were effectively a real functioning government, a successor state to the United States that was trying to actually recreate it, not by force, but like through force and action, like trying to like link people together through an economy, through proper representation, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the negatives were that there was endemic corruption in it, as that's just a thing that happens when you don't have everybody trying to work towards a better tomorrow. And that their democratically elected government tended to be barely democratically elected, because you generally had presidents that would be in there for like 20, 30 years at a time. So, and it's almost like, I think their two longest serving presidents were like father and daughter. So it was almost like a dynasty in some ways. So the NCR, to me, are like, this is the best hope for the future. I'm an NCR fanboy.
So what you're saying is all they're missing is somebody to start up the U.S. Postal Service. Oh wait, I've seen that movie before.
Yeah, they actually did have their own postal service. So I mean, like they
was Oscar riding around with a flag.
No, but you know, I'm an NCR fanboy. I will admit it. And Shady Sands was their capital. Now, Shady Sands wasn't really supposed to be in the LA area. I will say that that's kind of something that they changed.
Geography cheat, basically.
Yeah, because Shady Sands should have been somewhere out in like the Central Valley of California, or at least into the Mojave. Okay. But what the events of Fallout New Vegas have the NCR pushed all the way to Vegas and the Hoover Dam. And it seems like, at least according to Mr. House, who we actually do see in this TV series.
I thought Shady Sands was in Fresno area.
It's out way northeast of LA. Way northeast. Out towards north of Vegas and south of Reno. Let's put it that way, Darlene. Anyway, we do see Mr. House in this show. He is the Robco representative.
You liked him. I didn't think he did as good of a job.
Because he's supposed to be sort of like Howard Hughes.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I was kind of getting off him, yeah.
Except a little less urine in jars than Howard Hughes, you know.
A little.
Kind of like an evil Tony Stark sort of thing.
Yeah, Tony Stark, because he's Robco, man. Like, he is Robco. He builds all the robots. He's the guy that programmed the Pip-Boys. He's the guy that has, like, when you boot up terminals in Fallout, it all says Robco operating systems. And the thing is that him being in that meeting is amazing. I'm sorry, I'm getting off subject with it. It's amazing because he's the only dude in that meeting in that final episode that doesn't sit there and fanboy over the idea of having vaults to do crazy experiments on people.
Because he already has them.
He already has either is doing his own or doesn't want to have anything to do with these screwheads because this is all bad for business. And tell you what, I already have my plans to survive now, folks, because I'm just going to freeze my body and go into some sort of weird cybernetic dream and run Vegas. So if you play through New Vegas, you realize that like Las Vegas survives, that whole area effectively survives because Mr. House planned on the war happening and was able to take out almost all the incoming nukes into the area. He missed a few.
Yeah,
But-
but he had a lot of them on him, which means the rest of them were shooting at him.
Yeah.
Well,
So
did he make all the primitive AI and stuff?
theoretically, yeah,
So
did.
if that's the case, then he might have had disinterest in running the human experiments because he would have been the only person thinking about running the experiments on computers where he could get the simulated results a lot faster without wasting people.
Yeah, and in the end, he didn't want to just like destroy the Earth. Now, in the games, Mr. House is an antagonist. He is a douchebag. He is the benevolent dictator because he doesn't want to kill people. That's bad for business. He'd rather have them come to Vegas and spend their hard-earned caps and keep the peace. I don't want to destroy the NCR. They're my best customer. I build all these weapons and sell them to the NCR just like I sell them to Caesar's legions. It's in my best interest to keep them both in existence and fighting. We do see the in the last episode of this series, we see like them zooming out from New Vegas, and we see like the broken NCR vertibirds and broken Securitrons that are like scattered all over the strip. So it looks like whatever happened, the NCR probably was overextended at the second battle of Hoover Dam and then started falling apart. They just couldn't keep up with the expansionism. And that's how the NCR fell apart in the show.
And we don't know what happened to Caesar's Legion.
Well, yeah, we don't
That'll
know
be interesting because when they're walking into that, they're walking into Caesar's. That's why my theory is that the Brotherhood
absorbed part of Caesar's legions.
or the other way around.
See, we don't know what the canon ending from New Vegas is yet. My theory is that the canon ending for this TV show now is that House wins. That effectively House takes control of the entire area surrounding New Vegas. The NCR falls, but so does Caesar's Legion. And then the only reason why we have our dude running out to freaking New Vegas in the end from after being captured when he's got the power armor on and he runs out to New Vegas is because the great game is on. It's still going on. And he knows that Mr. House is above all of this shit. And Mr. House is playing his own game. He's not playing Vault-Tech's game. He's playing his own game. And maybe he can find refuge with Mr. House.
That's one thing I think I'm really looking forward to this. And this is something I think with the modern video game adaptation that, like I said, we're now seeing with this show, The Last of Us, The Witcher, well, to a lesser degree, is we got a fantastic first season. We got really good storylines, but we're going to have to wait. I'm willing to wait a year or two to get a really well done season 2 of Fallout. And actually, me and Alex were talking about this during the show last week, depending on when this airs, probably very soon. But me and Alex were talking about if they wanted to tide people over, you could do little anthologies, like one episode that would tide people over for a couple of months.
Yeah. My suggestion was, while they're waiting to do another 8 episodes or whatever they're going to do for this, hour episodes, if they say it's going to be like 2 years or more because of didn't this take like 2 years to film and edit?
Something like that, yeah.
And part of that was writer strikes and yada, yada, yada. We get that. But still, we're probably still looking at 1.5 to 2 years on this. To strike while the iron's hot, you can get around having to have everything as epic if you go, okay, let's green light 5 30-minute episodes of an anthology where we're going to focus on a different faction or a different person or a different element, a la sort of what like Star Trek did with short treks. Only, make them a little bit
Vault Tales or something, right?
I can give you an idea, but go ahead, darling.
I was going to say the best of it would probably be just a episode or a show in the middle of for Christmas or something like that.
Yeah, you know what, you're right.
You want something? I can even have a better idea. I have a better idea.
Put it out on the 4th of July,
no,
like next year.
15-minute NCR public broadcasting history shorts.
Ooh, that's clever.
Something from the 2270s prior to New Vegas, and all you're doing is telling little stories based on the terminal entries. You're not creating any new stories. You're doing something about like educating kids on the history of the United States or the NCR in Fallout, but done in that weird like retro futurism
Vault-Tex.
1950s style.
You know what you
Yeah.
could do?
Doing
You
it
have it
from the perspective
set
of
it in
the
the
NCR.
classroom. Set it
Yeah.
in the classroom, and then have Matt Berry as one of the robots teaching the class, and they're just putting it on a projector.
Oh, that's clever.
And
I
then
like
you
that.
save money by making it like flash animated, like but made it to look like it was hand drawn slides, like and just have him narrate over slides.
Yeah,
Like
that would be great. And it would be cheap.
one of the things they did in Fallout 4, because Alex, you did play a little bit of that. When you boot the game, you do see the Vault Boy doing the thing in that retro 1950s cartoon style. You could put those out fairly consistently and just be like, hey, as like Aaron just said, here's the history of the NCR, but your ideas in live action work much better than that. If you wanted to keep something kind of fun, I think if Amazon really wanted to surprise people, I know this probably won't happen. This is my pie in the sky wish, a Vault Tech Christmas special, and it's Kyle McLaughlin and it's Ella Purnell, and they're sharing one of their last Christmases together. And it's just them, and it's literally like a bottle episode, 30-40 minutes, and it's just talking about the history of what's happened, maybe a little bit of flashback. And because you can keep it in the vault, that set is no way that set's been struck. So it's going to be up for the duration of this show in some capacity. And you could do so much fun stuff to, as you mentioned, strike while the iron's hot, keep the interest going, like the short treks. And it wouldn't cost them a whole lot of money. And you could even hire actors who want to be in the show, but they couldn't get them in season 1 or 2 to just do little Vault-Tec stories. And it doesn't need a lot of special effects as long as it's got the props, the right look, and the right writing. And that's something I just want to talk about for just a moment. One of the things that I love about the Fallout world and universe, and even the TV show, it nailed the music and the vibe. And so much so, Alex, I was actually going to surprise you for this for Christmas. I'm still going to try and do it. I found the soundtracks on vinyl for you.
Oh,
So I'm going to try. So if my credit card clears, Merry Christmas early.
What's funny is a couple of the songs in there. I'm sure if I went through my grandpa's collections of 78s, there's probably a couple of them that are on there.
I mean, and it's something that adds so much to the world. And honestly, that was my big entry point into Fallout, because I'm a very big audio guy. I love music. Whenever I play Fallout 4, I always have Diamond City Radio here. I mean, they play Crawl Out Through the Fallout, which is a novelty song that came out in the 60s. They do all these really funny references, but the music always adds to that layer of authenticity to the show. So as we begin to kind of close things out here, I guess, where do you want to see this show go in season 2? I know we've talked about the NCR. Could you see an NCR spin-off? Because Amazon likes to do their spin-off. I mean, look at The Boys. We got 4 seasons and Gen V. Could you do an NCR spin-off?
You could, and I'll say this briefly because it's been on my mind. They've also done what was it? The Invincible cartoon. They did a mini series. Remember, a couple episodes in between seasons, focusing on separate characters. You could do that. I think it would be a mistake to do a season 2 completely focused on a different part of America. Because they've already said all the actors are coming back, but they didn't say that necessarily they're going to be in every episode. I don't know if they're going to do something like that, but you could, for maybe the beginning half of season 2, introduce something that's happening. You could even have a B plot line where you're jumping between these characters, and then something else happening that will eventually tie in different factions. I do think it would be to the benefit of most people to have some part of that season delving a little more into backstory, even if it's just quick exposition on some of the factions and that, because while people are going to go back and play the games, the vast majority of didn't they say it was like 65 million people watched this?
Yeah,
it was
huge
amount.
numbers.
It was the and not just like, they tuned in. It was 65 million watched the whole season, which is That's like Stranger Things season 1 numbers, which hasn't been
It
done
was
in streaming in a
amazing.
very long time. Like that's 65 million. That's like height of The Sopranos, height of Game of Thrones being water cooler talk, even more so because more people have this platform than paid for HBO.
That's more
So
people than have to have played the games. Let's be fair.
it really it has to be. And more people that have played. I would say some people have played. There's as big or as we think, Mike, and our groups of people and friends that
Mm-hmm.
love New Vegas and love like Fallout 3. Fallout 4 was the most successful Fallout game, and I think that was somewhere north of 10 million copies.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which that's cumulative over time, and then maybe add let's add a couple million more now for Game Pass people that wanted to check it out because of the show. I don't think they were expecting this. I think they were expecting about a third of what they got. And now they're like, oh crap, we can't make the games fast enough. We can't make the shows fast enough. There's going to have to be something else that they do.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't speculate because I don't know much about it. But what I do know is there's going to be a ripple effect of this. Now everybody's going to jump on the bandwagon. But the ripple effect will be, even though shows like Silo on Apple was pushed back because of the strike, it's going to now come out with its next season before season 2 of Fallout comes out, and that's going to have the effect of people that are already like, hey, this Fallout show is great. Are there any other shows like Fallout?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's one right there. And you've
Yeah,
got a
it's
few
sort
other
of,
properties. Well, the idea of somebody in a vault, somebody, mystery, weirds, alternate tech, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Pseudo 50s, 60s vibes mixed with some 80s and future stuff.
For all mankind.
Yeah, it's going to have the trickle-on effect of. I hope it doesn't mean that everything has to be this exact copycat.
Post-apocalyptic. Yeah.
But what it's going to do some of that. But what this is going to do as well is it's going to bring more people into watching sci-fi in general, similar to how after the '90s and early 2000s you had your Star Trek and Stargates that had all their copycats after that. It sort of fizzled out around 2003, 2004. But then there was a second resurgence because of the Battlestar Galactica remake. How that injected, for good or bad, I'd say mostly for good, except for some of the shaky cam stuff. It did inject a lot of life into sci-fi becoming mainstream again, being cool again, being fun again for the general audiences. And then we really haven't had that. When superhero movies and everything started coming out, that was pulling everybody's attention. And even some of the Mandalorian and certain Star Trekky stuff and Star Wars stuff have got their fans, and there's some rabid fans, and there's some mainstream appeal, especially of the Mandalorian. There hasn't been something this big. This is a bigger show than anything Disney has put out on Disney Plus. This is a bigger show than this. There are more people that watched this season of this show than have watched the collective viewers of everything Apple's put out, no matter how fantastic For All Mankind is. And that For All Mankind is getting somewhere in the realm of 5 to 10 million viewers, which is still great for a premium paid service.
Yeah.
But this might drive more people to watch those things. So I don't think
positive. Yeah.
I don't think the long wait that we're going to have is going to be too bad for it because of this. It'll be satiated a bit in that this might spark some more creativity in other people.
I think it's also pulling people back onto Steam to play the games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it did for me. It did for me because it had been a long time since I played New Vegas. So I went back. I bought New Vegas with all the DLC. Well, I mean, I played it originally on PlayStation 3. So I bought it on the PC with all the DLC, and I'd actually never played the DLC before. And I was really surprised at how good DLC specifically was and how fun New Vegas was. I remembered enjoying it, but I was pleasantly surprised.
Well,
I'm glad I went back.
And again, trickle-on effect for gaming, people are going to go, hey, New Vegas is great, but then there's all the articles out there about how that game was rushed because Bethesda really gave a limited budget to Obsidian to do it, and they had a hard deadline, must be out for X date. And does that mean that in the interim they might want to go back, Microsoft might want to go back and remaster with cut content or do things? They could do that, but people are also going to look at that and go, hey, I've caught up on all this Fallout stuff. Is there anything else that these companies made? Oh wait, Obsidian made The Outer Worlds, which was their own sort of take on the Fallout genre
in space, right?
it was Fallout in space with a little bit of the Borderlands humor injected into it, which is going to be a movie this summer. Which flip a coin if it's going to be any good or not.
I don't have high hopes. I don't.
But
I've played all the Borderlands games.
But there's another Mad Max movie coming out, right? We've got what is it, the Furiosa one, which again, flip a coin if it's going to be good or not. But it's I'm not planning on getting hyped for it. I'll say that. But post-apocalyptic retro future tech stuff is now it.
It's in. Yeah.
So if anything gets a rush order, I hope they don't rush any of the special effects. It's this. I don't think they're going to increase the episode count, but I do think they may increase the budget, because this is one of the few shows that has come out that Amazon can say is probably actually driving people to purchase Prime. That, because right now most people that have Prime are generally getting it for the shipping, and then the rest of the show stuff is like, oh, it's a bonus. This is something that actually might drive people to the service for the video alone. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm very
watch a
interested.
lot of the Prime's videos.
Yeah, but
too.
we're not who he's talking about.
Yeah, well, let's be honest. Like, what is there? Probably, if I had to guess, 500 million Prime subscribers worldwide for the shipping service.
Yeah, because my business that I work for has Prime just for shipping.
Exactly.
And
Even if you're not using it personally, there's business, like you said, businesses everywhere. So they're using that, and this is just a line item to them. Well, this is now something that might drive business to it. So I'll be interested to see what happens. You guys are the experts on it. I'm just extremely happy that somebody like myself, who didn't care for the games, not because of the lore. I always wanted to get sucked in by the lore. I just didn't like the gameplay loop, and it's just a personal thing. I see this and go, if it pulled me in this far that I wanted to go back and play the games and try them again, I can only imagine what it's going to do for a whole new generation. Because let's be real, Fallout 76 almost tanked their entire franchise. And then you have new kids. Now, you got a lot of kids that are, like 16, 17, that are going to be watching this for the first time. That the last time a mainline game came out, they were like 8. They weren't going to be playing this, right? So now they've got a whole generation.
Story about this.
Okay.
I have a story about this, about this new generation. Okay, so we're at a reenactment. We're talking to fairly young people, let's say 19, 20.
Well, this last one was 5th and 6th graders.
Not talking about them, Darlene.
Okay.
Talking about reenactors like 19, 20 years old, who are like talking about the songs and old jazz and rediscovering even music from Fallout, and going, oh my god, I never realized how good
that
how good this stuff
before
is.
1950.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, I've always loved this stuff, but then again, I grew up, I'm weird. For my age, I seemingly am not. I'm like from the generation before in a lot of my music tastes, in some weird ways, just because I was around my grandparents so often.
So what is your favorite song that's in Fallout?
In Fallout, man, I don't know. I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire is the classic one, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I get kind of...
For me, like, I was introduced to that song through the Megadeth album.
Yeah,
the opening
Civilization.
That's mine.
Set the World Afire.
Yeah, Civilization with the Andrews sisters. God,
that's my favorite.
Fantastic. I every time that's on in the game, I crank the sound and just...
You guys, what's your favorite song on those?
Probably I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire is a good one, but I like I think it's Atom Bomb Baby is a very big favorite of mine, because that plays a lot in Fallout 4.
Uranium Fever.
Yeah, Uranium Fever is such a banger. The Wanderer, love that. That's my go-to combat song.
One thing I did like about DC one is you had that radio station always.
Galaxy Radio.
Always going, and
let's see if I can get my Geiger counter here to click, if you can hear it. I even have a Geiger counter right here.
Oh, wow.
You want me to get the uranium glass?
Oh, yeah. See, we have uranium even in the house, so...
Oh, fantastic.
If anybody in the world would, it would be you two.
If I,
Well,
if I would trust anybody with it, it would be them. That's pretty much it.
Here's
True,
the thing.
yeah.
Here's the thing. There used to be a thing called uranium glass, right? You
Mhm.
used it to tint glass. A lot of times it's called Vaseline glass. So when I made my Nuka-Cola recipe, I'm going to put my Geiger counter right in it. You might be able to hear it. Oh, now it's just not going to. Might be hard to hear.
The Institute right here, folks.
Can you hear it?
Yeah. That's
It's
fun.
really going.
I love that.
So anyway, when I do my Nuka-Cola recipe that came out of the official cookbook,
Yep, which we have tried too. I made Quantum.
I juiced all of my citrus using my uranium glass juicer. Darn it, there will be radioactivity in my Nuka-Cola.
That's amazing. I guess to kind of talk about, I guess to kind of talk about my hopes for season 2. This is my wish. I hope they're restrained in bringing in some of the weirder stuff. Like I said, I think the fact we didn't see a full-on Deathclaw is a very good thing. Save that as your big bad. Make sure when the big monsters show up, it really counts. Make it look as good as the Gulper at minimum, not like the Yogi. Take your time, really craft it. Obviously, I want a very impactful story. I'm hoping Thaddeus comes back as a super mutant. I think he would be wonderful comic relief, and maybe there's a redemption arc there. I really hope he comes back. That guy was funny as hell.
If I had to make a prediction about Deathclaws, this kind of post-apocalyptic show, regardless of whether or not it's in the games or not, you know what the writers are going to want to do. They're going to want some form of Mad Max Thunderdome battle arena, and they're going to want some, it's like you got to fight our champion, and it's going to be some sort of cage Deathclaw.
Deathclaw versus a super mutant. I could see that actually.
I don't know. I think if they're going to do a death match, it's going to be in some dude in Raider power armor.
Yeah, because I can see
that would be cool
if they were
too.
going to use a Deathclaw, all you would see is like Cooper and Lucy running from it.
Yeah, everyone running. And only see it in like shadows, so you see it like the reflection from its eyes and the growl. Maybe the hand coming out of the shadow.
We have learned from our old movies is you don't have to show the monster.
True.
You just have to show the emotion of the oh crap, I need to get out of here.
Lucy just has to go, what's a Deathclaw? They turn, and then they just start running, and then you don't see it, you're right? But all you see is limbs and things flying towards the camera as they're running towards the camera.
That would be really clever.
It's just tearing through a crowd. And they're like, gotta go, faster, must go faster.
Here's my prediction for season 2. It's going to be in 2 places. Maybe 3, because we'll go back down into vaults 31, 32, 33 for a part of it. It's going to be Maximus in LA having to deal with basically becoming the power man. Like, he's going to be given credit for bringing light back to a city, which just isn't a thing anywhere else. Suddenly there's lights and there's refrigeration. There can be radio now again. Like, this is a big deal, right? Like, yes, there was radio, but these were all small scale things. LA is lit, and he's going to have to try to hold back the Brotherhood of Steel from like trying to cleanse everything, but also try to help the NCR rise back into power. Now, the second part of it is going to be Cooper Howard, Lucy, following her father out towards New Vegas and going through the Mojave, Death Valley, having to deal with some old military bases and probably large radioactive craters before they get towards New Vegas. Maybe even Area 51. Who knows? That will be a fun episode because you got to go through that area. I mean, you don't have to, but why not? Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the journey to New Vegas and then staying in LA as society tries to rise against the wishes of this brotherhood, with Maximus trying to thread
the wishes of the
elders.
priest,
Yeah,
and how much Maximus can get away with pushing what Lucy's taught
because
him.
I still assume that the NCR is still out there, like as a government. It's just not in this area for whatever reason. Like they've abandoned it. But the NCR is going to come back in, and they're going to be coming back in force.
Yeah.
All this power.
Like, there's going to be a showdown between the NCR, the Enclave, the Brotherhood of Steel. I would love to see them hint towards the Institute. I would love it to see if somebody we followed the entire time, if at the big shocker reveal at the end of a season, they're a synth. Like, there's a lot of potential here. And I think if Amazon doesn't fumble the ball, if they let the showrunners and the writers do what they want, if Bethesda gives them the oversight to say, hey, you knocked it out of the park, we trust you, please make us more money. One of the big things I'd love to see is, like Alex was saying, if they can do a remaster of Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas, it's always been talked about. Like, us in the Fallout community have known there have been high level discussions about it for years, and it's always been rumored in the Xbox leaks.
Or dude, you want to do something quick? You get Deck 9, whoever's doing, whoever it was that did, maybe it was the old Telltale people that did the Star Trek Resurgence game. You can get some quicker games made within a year and a half that are either like adventure games, puzzle solving games. You can do things in other genres. It doesn't just have to be first person RPGs that are huge worlds. You could tell a bunch of shorter stories in between and have, expand out that way. Do a bunch of low budget stuff that's, maybe not super graphically intense, but is going to flesh out the stories of the backgrounds, and have it tied, to the show. Maybe, name it something after the year of the show, or name it, something tangentially connected to it. But you can do that. It doesn't have to be these $100 million, $200 million RPGs.
Bethesda and whoever put out Dragon Age, I think it was Bethesda, wasn't it?
No,
that was BioWare.
BioWare. Yeah.
BioWare put out Dragon Age. They also had comic books, and they had a little short
anime movies.
Yeah, that's right. That movie, the anime one. Yeah, that's right. Animated. They could do an animated series in between.
Yeah.
And make it even use. You can get around having to take 2 or 3 years for animation if you just use animation and the game engine. The games look good enough as it is, and just have voice acting. You can tell stories within that mode. Make that free for people to watch. Put it on, put it on Prime or put it on YouTube as a supplementary thing. Get people, satiated for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to look forward to. I mean, I know stuff that's been in the pipeline. I know Paramount Plus has committed to doing a Dungeons and Dragons series. There is still the ever popular rumor of a sequel to Honor Among Thieves. I hoping with the success of Fallout, let's say this goes 4 more seasons, and I know this might pique Aaron's interest. Maybe this might be enough for a company to take a look at an older IP, like, say, Battletech or something like Shadowrun, to adapt that with a big budget. You could do stuff like Grand Theft Auto, because essentially there are shows like that, like Sons of Anarchy, Animal Kingdom. There are possibilities to take video game IPs, turn them into really good shows with a proper budget, with the right casting, and the proper showrunners to give it the respect it deserves. I know me and Alex talked about this very briefly on the show this week, but we were saying to take a property like, say, Friday the 13th, and when you Brian Fuller that, it's going to be derivative of Hannibal. But when you look at something like Fallout, their showrunners from Westworld took the core idea, made it their own, but still fit within the IP. There's so much, this opens so many doors, because I think, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't Amazon have the rights to Mass Effect?
It's already in production.
Yeah, so maybe this will be
something huge. Let me double check.
One thing I gotta say about that one is that Fallout, and some of these some things, you got to see how much back world building it has.
Yeah,
you can't do a thing like what was it that you said, the one I called the violent one that Aaron always wanted to watch?
Battle
not Battletech, because Battletech has a lot. I'm a Battletech. Brian for Auto. It doesn't have much background besides being a thief.
You
And
could
yeah.
do it with the proper setting. Like if you set it in like Vice City, you could do the story of Tommy Vercetti, but the problem
At
is
that
Ray
point-
Liotta's gone.
And I was going to say, at that point, isn't it just
Liberty City
Sopranos?
Stories.
But back then, you know what I mean? It's not. Yeah, it's not unique enough. I just double checked. As of January 2024, Amazon's next big show that they're in production, they're actually filming it now, is the God of War TV show.
Wow.
And then the next one, apparently, is 2021, November 2021. They greenlit the Mass Effect one, and it's in pre-production. That's the one. So they're cycling in. It's Fallout, God of War, and Mass Effect. Mass Effect is just the one that's taken the longest to do because it's the one apparently that requires the most extensive CGI and sets and everything.
Yeah.
And the other one, another show is Netflix has optioned Horizon Zero Dawn, which is again,
that could be cool.
future post-apocalyptic and civilization, dinosaur robots. So there's a lot
you
of
know the background behind that one, don't you?
Oh yeah,
Okay. 'Cause
Yeah,
I play that game.
Horizon. Yeah, Terraform, it didn't go so good.
Well,
But yeah.
we can talk about that one later if you want.
Yes, we should
100%.
definitely do that at some point.
Yeah.
Yes, that'll be fun because it's a good series and it's got a pretty interesting story. And again, already plays kind of like a movie in itself.
So guys, we are eating good in the era of video game adaptations. Like I said, highly recommend you check out this series if you haven't done so far. It's only 8 episodes. If you get free shipping, you already have it. You should totally watch it. You should also check out The Last of Us, fantastic series. The Witcher, the first couple seasons, they're okay. Castlevania as an adaptation on Netflix, pretty good too. There's really good stuff out there. But then there's also Twisted Metal. And there's the Halo show, which we didn't even talk about, but it got better in season 2, but
you can
not nearly enough.
record that by yourself and pretend that you have somebody that wants to talk about it with you.
I'm going to have to power through season 2, but anyway.
All the internet memes and pictures that are just people showing, here's a video game TV show, and then they show Fallout beside it, and they're like, here's how you do it.
Yeah, exactly. So guys, again, thank you so much for joining us here on This Week in Geek. So from the Vault-Tec installation in Lansing, Michigan, we have been
Aaron.
And Darlene.
And by the way, there is a vault in Lansing, according to the show.
Why am I not surprised, Overseer? And then from the Ghoul Encampment in Kitchener, Ontario,
Alex.
And I have been your vault dweller, Mike the Birdman, saying, live long and prosper. Or in this case, if it's brown, drink it down. If it's black, it's probably irradiated.
Crawl out through the fallout, baby, when they drop that bomb.